Have you ever imagined what it feels like to be paralyzed? A life full of struggles, difficulties, and dependence. When I was at 9th grade, I visited one of my distant relatives. Unfortunately, he was paralyzed after an accident. And the hardest part for him was to move even with a wheelchair. Is it just because he couldn't afford a wheelchair that could support him? No. It was that time I realized that there are no wheelchairs that could support a differently paralyzed person to move independently. That time, I imagined why there is not a wheelchair for that type of a person. What if there is a wheelchair for that type of a person? With this statement, I get into researchers and I found a small minute chip called EMG pill. I chose this tiny chip just because it can read muscle signals from our body. These muscle signals can be used to control a wheelchair even by a differently paralyzed person. However, this chip had one limitation, that it can only generate 2 signals from one muscle. I mean, on a muscle, we can only apply 2 thresholds at a time and create 2 signals through this. But when we consider a wheelchair, we need 4 controls. I mean, to move a wheelchair forward, right, left, and a normal state. As I said, this chip only creates 2 signals from one muscle. With these 2 signals, we can only create or make a movement on wheelchair for about 2 movements. In that case, we can just simply add one more EMG pill. But it would make it complicated to use, costly, and if we use 2 of the EMG pill, we should also consider 2 muscles at a time. Right then, I thought, why this chip couldn't pull out 4 signals at a time? This question pushed me further. Why I should accept the limitation of that tiny chip, as technology has no limits. With this mindset, I challenged the developers, rules, and the chip. Finally, I pulled out 4 signals from one EMG pill, which was impossible. Today, I can proudly say that I created a wheelchair that could support a differently paralyzed person to move independently with their different paralysis. With this innovation, I understood that we are not born to copy. We are born to create. We are not born to accept the limitation. We want to move over that. We are not born to follow one's line. We want to create new paths, new ways, new discoveries. So I believe that an innovation starts with a small question. What if? What if there's a way? What if there was a new way? What if things could be improved? Even Charles Babbage, the father of computers, began with the same question. What if? So whenever you face a problem, ask the question, what if? Think opposite, think differently, and create your own path. Because if you dare to ask what if, you open the door to something greater, a creator, an innovator, a problem solver. Then you can become the spark that changes ideas into actions and actions into changes. Thank you.